Hello everyone, welcome to our talk. Today we're going to be talking about turning your data, AI algorithms into full web apps using only Python and very quickly. Quick notes about this talk. As he said, I'm Alex, this is Florian. We both work in customer success at Taipy. I'm going to do a quick presentation with a few slides, and then Florian's going to do some live demos, and we should be good. All right, so let's start. The problem. In 2019, Gartner released a study where they predicted that only 20% of data analytics projects would actually deliver results. That's extremely low, while companies are spending $270 billion on business intelligence. And that's the problem we wanted to tackle. In 2020, the IDC released another study where they wanted to look at the causes of why data projects were always failing. So their first idea was, well, only 23% of companies find the right talent. So the issue when you're working in data or ML is that you don't need to be only good at ML, at math, or statistics. You'll still need DevOps skills because you're going to be deploying your product, serving it, monitoring performances. And you also need front-end skills because if your dashboard is ugly, no one's going to use it. So the first issue is skill. And afterwards, we've got almost 90% of data applications take too long and are too costly to develop and deploy. So generally, in machine learning in production, the issue is that everyone thinks that prototyping is the biggest part, doing your model is the biggest part. In reality, it's only 30% of your work. Generally, you'll have to deploy, you'll have to monitor performance, retrain, do support. That's going to be the big part, and that's often not anticipated, so that's why projects fail. All right, so we've talked about problems and the three causes. Now, where does Taipy comes in? So Taipy, we're an open source Python library. You can pip install us. And here's an example where I code a simple web app where I just have a chart that's dynamic, interactive. So here I just import Taipy, import pandas. I load a CSV dataset. That's how we write pages. We used Markdown syntax. So here I have a title, here I have visual elements. So here I have a slider that's connected to my number of points Python integer. I do run, and with those simple steps in only 17 lines of code, I have my locally hosted web app with a slider that's moving a chart around. So why is this useful? Well, in terms of talent, I just coded a web app using only Python. I didn't need to outsource any front-end skills like React. In terms of time, I just locally hosted a web app in 17 lines of code. If you try to do the same in React, it's not the same thing. And in terms of cost, well, if you have a data analytics team, it reduces your tech stack to only Python. You don't need to learn any other new languages. We also deal with backend, so part of our product is called Taipy Core. We have a VS Code extension that allows you to manage data pipelines in a graph-based editor. So here, that's a simple machine learning prediction pipeline. The blue nodes, like this one, are data nodes, where you can either connect to an external database, whether it's SQL, S3, or anything else, or it can be just a CSV file or a Python variable. The orange nodes are task nodes. These are basically Python functions that convert data into new data. And with this, you can do, well, data pipelines. Why is this useful? Well, in terms of talent, this is a visual, low-code approach to managing data. So it requires less experience in data engineering. In terms of time and cost, we do a few things to save. So for example, Taipy will always save your pipeline's results with versioning. It's easy to compare runs of different scenarios. We don't rerun what does not need to be. So we have a caching system. For example, this task, clean data. The first time we will run this pipeline, we'll run it to clean the data sets. The second time we'll run, and every other time after this, we will never clean the data because we have stored clean data sets, and we'll always do this one. Another thing is it's really easy to plug into these blue nodes any common data sources that you have in your work environment, whether it's Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud. So I've talked about the problem we wanted to tackle, the three causes, and how does Taipy attack them. Now, results. So we worked with Intermarché, which is a big French retailer, and one of their teams wanted to create a cash flow management app. They didn't have the skills in-house to do this, so their first option was, well, outsourcing. You hire 4 people outside your company, it takes 8 months, 600K, that's what they did, and it was fine. They had their cash flow management app, but the issue is, well, you spend 8 months and you spent 600K. So we went to their team and we told them, well, you have a data analytics team that knows already Python, so let us help you create the same app that respects the same requirements with your own people. So we took 2 of their people, we trained them a bit with Taipy, they worked with Python, and with only 60K of budget and 2 months of work, they had an app that respected the same requirements. So that's really the main leverage of Taipy. It's successful deployments at reduced costs and time. I'll hand over the mic to Florian Jacta.
Yes. So I'm going to do a demo of Taipy. So first of all, I'm going to show you an application that we have built with Taipy. A simple dashboard, really it's just a single page that will show you how it looks like. So it is just a dashboard about stock price analysis, where you can change the date for your historical data, you can change the ticker on which you want to predict on, change maybe the number of years you want to predict, and then you have buttons, and it's going to create you some forecasts with your historical data. So a lot of different visual elements, different charts, tables, this kind of things are very interactive. And it's not to like show like a complete application here, it's that this application is done with just 120 lines of code. So really the goal of Taipy is really to be easy to create an application. It's not just for pilots, it's also for like production-ready applications. So well, I'm going to show you how you can create your first application with Taipy. So I'm going to go here and this. So here I will create really the simplest application with Taipy that you can do, which is just basically you have pimp install Taipy. So now you can use it, you can import it, and then you can create your first web page. I have done here importing the GUI, and then I have created my Markdown syntax. So this represents my page. If you know Markdown, well, this will tell you that the hashtag is the title here, and demo will be in italics. So it's like really a simple way to style your text with this way of creating a page. And you put this page into the GUI and run it. And this will give you basically just this. So of course here it's really simple. I have just pip install Taipy. I have created this, well, I have imported this GUI element, put this string that represents my page into the GUI and run it. And I have my Markdown Taipy demo as a title and demo in italics. So I want to do something a bit like better. I want maybe to connect to my Python environment. I want to show value, that value is equal to 10. So I'm just going to create value, and like to be able to connect to your Python environment, you will need to use Taipy visual element. They have always the same syntax, inferior than pipe. Then you will put your bound variable, so the one that you want to display, to modify, to change, whatever. Here I want to just show value, so 10. So I'm going to put that here. And here you put the name of your visual element that you want to have. So you have a lot of different visual elements here. I just want a text to show my value. So basically this. I'm going to run my app, and you will see value 10. Great. But of course I cannot change anything. It's fixed, it's just a text. But I have been able to connect to my Python environment just like this, using this Taipy visual element here that you see. If I want to modify this value, I can create another visual element. For example, I can create a slider. So I'm going to take this same here, change the name. I want to have a slider, but it's connected to the same value. So the same bound variable, but I want to modify. So I save it. And then you will see that I have value 10, and I have my slider. When I'm going to change my slider, it's also going to change my value. So with Taipy, it's really easy to have this kind of synchronization between your different variables. You don't have to write anything, no callbacks. Your app will be like refreshed instantly with this kind of bound variables that we have here, like in this internal logic that we have in Taipy. But normally in dashboards, like in data applications, you want to show some charts, some tables. So I'm just going to create some data for you that we'll be able to then show. So here it is like a really simple data that I am just importing. I'm going to create a list of cosine that will decay over time. Obviously, it can also be like a CSV, an Excel file, can be pandas, NumPy, whatever. Here it is a list, and I'm just putting it to my data. And now I want to show this data in my app. So what I'm going to do, same thing, Taipy visual element. I want to show my data as a chart. And maybe I also want to show it as a table. And so like this, I can just refresh, and we will see this chart, this cosine that is decaying over time. I can also zoom in, zoom out. If I have multiple traces, I can select ones, deselect, unselect others. In fact, maybe you recognize it. It's like Plotly graphs. So in fact, we have all the different charts of Plotly. So I'm going just to show you this. We have line charts, scatter, bar charts. Well, really, whatever you want to do with charts, you can do it with Taipy. So this is like a Plotly chart that you can it's really interactive. And then you've got the table that I have chosen to display here. So OK, I have created all of this really in a simple way. But maybe I want to do something when my slider changes. Like it is 24, 43. How can I do something else, like create a callback from this and change, for example, my data? I can do that in multiple ways. I'm just going to show like 2 ways to do it. The first one will be to create a callback function that I'm going to create here. So this is a callback function. On slider, it has the state as a parameter. The state is a Taipy concept. It just means that because we are multi-user by design, we need different states to differentiate between different users. So, for example, I have state.value here that is equal to 43. For another like app, it will be 24, 26. So we have like state.value will be the runtime value of your value. So here what I want to do is when I'm going to call this callback to have my state of my data for me to change depending on state of my value. And when it's going to be called, well, I want it to be called when I'm changing my slider, right? So unchange on slider. So when I'm going to change my slider, it's going to call this function that I've created with a state in it, and I'm going to change the state of my data depending on the state of my value. So I'm doing this. And now I will have my chart. And when I'm going to change my slider, we will see that we have it's interactive. Because Taipy knows where data is in the different data visual elements, it's going to update everything that needs to be updated like this. So it's one way to have this connection between 2 variables. I can do another thing to have the same behavior. In fact, I can just erase pretty much all of my code here. And I can just put this here. So this is my app. My complete app is just this. What you see here is a Python expression. I can put actually Python expression in my Taipy visual elements. So if you know like the f-string format in Python, it's quite the same thing. You can put actual Python expression directly inside your Taipy visual elements. So when I'm doing this and rerunning the code, I will have the same behavior because when I change my value, Taipy will know that value is in this like Python expression and it's going to reload it. So here you don't need like any callbacks, just the internal logic of Taipy will allow you to create your application like this. So it's pretty simple, but with this you can create full multi-page, multi-user applications with lots of different charts that are highly interactive, just like this. If we go back to the same demo that I've shown you, stock visualization, maybe now you can understand quickly how it's created. I have my title here, I have layout, which is just my columns, and then I have the different visual elements, so date, a button that's going to do this function, and these kind of things. So it's really simple to create an application just like this. So I've talked about like the charts. Also, we have a lot of different visual elements, so text, buttons, inputs, well, whatever you want, normally you will find it here. It's quite, there's a lot of things. So this is for the front end of Taipy. So how you can create different charts, different buttons that's going to do things that is highly interactive. But like Alexandre said, we have also a backend for Taipy that's going to be really, really useful when you create web applications for data. So I'm going to show you that, and so it will be here. So I'm clicking here. This is Taipy Studio. It's a VS Code extension that we have created for VS Code and for Taipy. The goal will be to have a lot of help to create things. So, for example, this Taipy Studio will allow me to create the configuration for my backend graphically. So I'm going to be able to edit the backend of my application just like this by having, just like a graphical representation of my backend. So the backend is essentially just pipelines. You're going to be able to configure it, create your different data nodes, the different tasks, and then you're going to be able to use your data inside your application very easily. For example, here, my application that you see is just an application for I'm just predicting on a data set. It's a CSV. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to have this clean data set. I'm going to predict on a day of prediction. So it's going to give me predictions, and I'm doing some evaluation. So what you see in blue are what we call data nodes. So for example, this one, like I said, it's a CSV with a storage type CSV. We have a lot of different types of storage types, so Pickle, CSV, Excel, Mongo, SQL, wherever. You can just configure your data sources just like this graphically, and it's going to be able to connect to your data sources. Also, if you have something really specific to you, you can just put a generic data node, and you're going to be able to create your own functions to read and write your data. Then I'm going to use this data node. I have a task. So this task is just a Python function that I have in my project. We can see it here. Just a function clean data, but I'm going to wrap inside Taipy with this concept of task. And just like this, I'm going to create my pipelines. I'm going to create my data nodes and my everything, all the backend for my application, for my data. So in fact, what you see, so like I said, it's an editor, so I can create new data nodes, I can create new tasks, and I can do everything just from here and configure it. What you're in fact doing is just changing a TOML file to configure the backend of Taipy. You could also do the same thing, but with just Python. So we have also this Python API to do exactly the same thing. Configure your data node. It's a CSV. It has a path. Configure all the other data nodes, the task, and so on and so on, just like this. So you have two ways to do it, either graphically or either with Python. So when it's good, okay, you have done your configuration, you have configured your backend, and now you can use it to create your application. So I'll go, this is what I use for my functions, config, this is just what I've shown you, and now I can go here. This is my code with the 2 pages I'm going to show you. So I'm going to write this. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is my application. So I have created this backend with these pipelines, and I'm going to be able to create scenarios. So scenarios is just a run of your pipeline. I'm going to be able to create different runs of my pipelines. I'm going to have an history of my pipelines. I'm going to be able to compare them, these kind of things. And this is what we call a scenario in Taipy. So for example, I'm going to say, to have a first scenario. I'm going to create it. And now there's a scenario here. So all this page was created with Taipy. I'm going to show you the code just after. And so this is the representation of a data node. You can see the properties of a data node in real time. You can see the history of what happened to this data node. We wrote it, we have changed it with which task. And then you have the data of this data node. If it's a command type like string, int, float, datetime, pandas, all of these kind of things, we can just read it, and then you can change it. So for example, I want to change my day of prediction here. I'm going to put this one. Okay, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to change it. So now I have another value for my day of prediction. And this here is a scenario viewer to see all the properties of my scenario. and I'm able to submit my scenario like this. So submit all the pipelines, all the tasks, and it's going to populate my data nodes and these kind of things. What you see here is the different jobs that have been placed. So I have submitted my scenario. If it can submit my task in parallel, it will do it. And you will see the different jobs that have been completed. So everything worked fine, there were no errors, or I will see it here. And the last thing that you see on this page is the DAG for my scenario, so for my pipelines. So all of this page that you see, which is quite complex, as you may think, with this like scenario selector, where I can add scenarios, where I'm able to also change different details. This data node viewer, where I can edit my data, change the properties, and so on. All of this. This has been done with just these lines of code. So a scenario selector that is bound to this scenario, a data node viewer, which is bound to the scenario day, like the day of prediction, a scenario viewer for this scenario, and then job selector and scenario DAG, which is just really its other Taipy visual elements that we have created just for the backend of Taipy, to be able to view it and submit scenarios, create ones, delete them, submit them, all of this really easily with Taipy. So all of this has created this page. The second page is just to view my data. So, well, maybe I can create another one, I'll create second scenario, create, okay, and I'm going to submit it also. Like that, we have more data to show. And here, it's the other page that I've created for my application. I have two scenarios. So same thing, I can explore my data just like this, see the properties, the history that has been done. I have written twice my data, the value of the day. Here, it is the evaluation, it's the end of my pipeline. So I know that the evaluation for my predictions are 2,598, which is just MAE. And then I can also see my predictions that I have, just like this. So I can, in fact, also change it if I want to. I can change the values. I'm also able to see them in the chart. Same thing as before, change some parameters, add new traces, add new elements to it if I want to. And same thing as before, this page has been created with just this line of code. A data node selector, where I can select a data node, and then a data node viewer, where I can just show my data, these kind of things with it. So pretty simple, but like that you can create your application with just these lines of code. Of course, here it's all is done graphically, but if you want to create scenarios with Python, you can also do it. So you can create a scenario like this, tp.create scenario based on the configuration that you have done with this graphical pipelines. You can write your data node just like this, scenario.datanode, that's right, you're going to write your pipelines and submit kind of the same thing, tp.submit scenario. So you can do whatever I've shown you in the application, also in Python if you want to. There's multiple ways to do it, which is kind of flexible. Last thing that I want to show you is it's an application that was built with Taipy. It's a bit more complex than the other one. Here it's multi-page, multi-user, these kind of things, where you can see your data. So here it's like tables that you have seen before, charts. It's normal visual elements that we have in Taipy. And the goal here is to be able to create different scenarios for our problem. Here the problem is production planning, but it can be whatever you want. It's about time series predictions, anything. You can just create your application based around it. And the goal would be to be able to change different your runs of pipelines to see the different metrics that it has, the different costs of your solution, what you have to do to be able to act on this data. And you can create different scenarios, like I've said, with new parameters. That's going to give you new solutions that can compare these kind of things. So all of this can do it pretty easily with Taipy, just using normal visual elements of Taipy. So when you are done with this, well, it's quite, yeah. I think I've shown you everything that I wanted to show you. So I will let you finish it.
Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, no, that's not it. But... All right, we have like 6 minutes, so maybe a few closing remarks. Your first question might be, why Taipy compared to other solutions in terms of front-end Python deployment? So we've looked at the market, and it's divided in two groups. So on one end, you've got things like Plotly, which is very complete. You can do anything with it, but the only issue is the learning curve is quite steep. You need maybe a month to learn how the product works. On the other end, you've got, well, Matplotlib and Seaborn, great, but you can't deploy with them. The main thing would be Streamlit. Streamlit, the main issue is that it's not really built for production. So as soon as you press a button on a Streamlit app, Streamlit will rerun your whole code to check what's changed. The issue with that is as soon as you have a big app, it's going to be really slow. In Streamlit also, the issue is that front-end and back-end are on the same thread, which means that, well, if you have a model running in the background, your front-end is completely frozen. So we've separated the threads. Another thing is Taipy. You can run Taipy in Jupyter Notebooks if that's something that you need. Something that we'll be releasing really soon is Taipy Cloud. So basically, as soon as you have an app built with Taipy, you just put it in a zip file, upload it to our website, and we'll host it for you. So really useful when you want to do quick beta testing of your products. You just upload it here, and they have access to it online. Quick remarks on the roadmap, Florian.
Sure. So for the roadmap, what you have seen with all these scenario explorer, data node viewer, these kind of things, is going to be released like in the upcoming weeks. So it's not released yet. So it will be really now easy to, well, just create your backend as I've shown you, like graphically, and then with some visual elements, going to be able to do anything with this backend. So this is something that is not like released yet. So now you just have to create normal buttons to create your scenarios and use Python to do it. Then we have like Taipy Cloud, like Alexandre showed you about, which is going to be also released like in the upcoming weeks. Taipy is going to talk to you about it. And then in January, we will also want to have like distributed computing. So it means that you can call somewhere else and do like the heavy work on a machine, and then you're going to get back the results and manage it in your app. So it will be really better to do this way. Also, I haven't shown like you this, but we have a previewer. So when you do like this Markdown syntax, in fact, you can view it in real time, and you can change it like in real time and have because here what you have to do is you have to run your code if you've made a change like to it, like if you add another function or another visual element. But in fact, you can also have just a pure because it's Markdown, and we're going to translate it into like some kind of web app that doesn't have its own logic, but well. And GUI builder, it just means that drag and drop, where you're going to be able to put your visual elements very easily and then create your app. So this is what is to come for Taipy in the upcoming months.
Thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate to check out and start our repo.
Yeah. Thank you.